In this video, we're using masks and adjustment layers together to create focal points in your artwork. The first thing we need to do is decide what to call out and make and adjust. So what I want to do is I'm going to turn these paintings um, into something that's going to be what the focal point is, and then I'm going to make the background black and white using the hue and saturation panels adjustment layer. So the first thing I'm going to do is select these paintings. These are a square shape or a rectangle. And because of that, I'm just going to use the polygon lasso. If your shape is more irregular, we'll do that, a more irregular shape later, then you might want to use the object selection tool or the magic wand or the quick selection tool. Okay, so I've just made my selection. And now what I want to do, because I don't want to lose the selection, if you spend a lot of time making a selection, it's so annoying when you lose it, I'm going to make another layer, and I'm going to fill in this layer with just a random color, and it doesn't matter what color you use. The next thing I'm going to do is make my adjustment layer. The reason why I did that is because now we can call upon this selection for the rest of it. So if I hit Command and this thumbnail, we get the selection back, and we can always turn this eyeball off later. And now what I can do is hit, Command or Control. Command or Control, Shift, and then the letter I. That inverts my entire selection. And now what I can do is I'm on layer 0. So what I want to do is now make an adjustment layer, a hue saturation layer. And now it's going to apply to everything except for those pictures. And that's because, and as you can see here, we have this mask layer, and everything on it that's white is impacted by this hue saturation that I just did, as we can see. But these two right here were black. They're painted in black, and that means that we still see that the adjustment layer isn't impacting them. If I want to change this in any way, and now I've just called out properties, I'm just going to hit OK. I don't think we need to go that far into editing this. Let's say I wanted to include this book, right? So I'm painting in black this book to now make it not impacted by the adjustment layer. I can hit undo. It's actually not letting me undo it. I don't know why. So let's just fill that in white. Okay. Now if I want to adjust this painting, I can still use that original selection that I made, that layer 1, to select it again, and now I can apply a totally different adjustment layer right there. And why don't we do, I'm going to do this color map, this gradient map thing, because I thought it was so cool last time I did it. And I'm just going to assign some totally different colors to it. And now I want to assign, let's go green. Okay, and that is my gradient map. So that's how we could use these adjustment layers. I'm going to do another example to show it off. And something else that's really great about this is we can always turn these off and on. Okay, so now I'm going to include the chair into my selection. Then I'm going to have a totally different adjustment layer applied to it. Okay, so this time I'm going to try using the object selection tool. Let's see what happens if it takes it or not. Okay, so I didn't even get the whole thing, but now let's try getting this part involved. I could try again. Okay, so we got most of it. Now I'm going to use the lasso tool to make some fine-tune adjustments. By holding down Shift, I can add to my selection. By holding down Option, I can take away from my selection, or Alt if you have a PC. Okay, so I'm just neatening up this selection. We see that the light didn't really get included, but I think that's fine. Now I'm going to get rid of a little bit more. Okay, and now again, instead of just painting black directly, I'm going to fill this in on its own layer, and that's just because it gives me more freedom later. If I don't know exactly how I want to do this now, I can just fill it in. I can I can make this shape and just use it later. I see that there's some scarring here, so I'm just going to fill that in with the paintbrush. You want to make sure that whatever the selection you have, this is what you're going to be using later to make your other selection. So it's better for this to be as accurate as possible. Okay, and now I'm going to turn this layer off. And let's say I want to do something a little different with this. I'm going to hold down Control or Command. And now on this, I've just selected this. I'm going to fill this in black on the hue saturation layer, and that's going to make this back in color again. And now I'm going to apply something different. I'm going to, let's try doing a black and white. What I really want to do here is tint this color, if it lets me. I want to tint this color, and I'm going to try doing something similar to the greenish part. Okay. So they're not all that similar. I can always try to change it and see what happens. Anyway, and that is how you would use different layer masks to alongside your adjustment layers to call out focal points and adjust parts of the picture but not the rest of it. If you wanted, you could keep the whole thing in full color and then maybe turn one specific object black and white. You can do that as well. Let's make the hue saturation layer for this. So now I'm just turning the whole pictures in full color except for one item. That one chair is now black and white. So those are the kind of things you can do. I recommend that you just mess around and play with it. And when you're making these selections, make sure to make your whole selection, fill it in on a separate layer, and then you can apply the adjustment layers afterwards. And you should be turning those layers off. You don't actually need the layer that you're using to make the selection. It's just to help you later.